Hello, Hearties. Look, I was driving around Hope Valley again, got rid of Jeanette. Jeanette tossed her out, said, "You got to hike it back. You were not nice to my Lucas." And instead picked up this man right here, Edwin, Erik Gow, really. Hi, Erik. How are you?
Hello. Hi, Hearties. Hi, Roxanne. It's so lovely to see you today. Thank you for the invitation to come out.
I know. I'm excited that you're here because your character, for me, was a pleasant surprise. Like, I thought you were just this annoying tourist that had wandered into Hope Valley and was, living it up in the hot springs. And then we were like surprised. So I'm loving it. Tell us a little bit of your journey of how you found your way to Hope Valley.
Absolutely. I'm a local to Vancouver, British Columbia, of course, where we shoot When Calls the Heart. So I'm very lucky and privileged to have gotten the chance to be a part of the show. You're not entirely wrong in terms of the journey of myself and Edwin as a member of Hope Valley now. I was supposed to originally just have been in the one episode. I
Mm,
was originally showing up. I was a tourist who arrived at Hope Valley right when the springs were coming in and all the tourists were coming into town. And I had auditioned for that role. It was, I believe, Edwin Mitchel, Persnickety Man,
oh, persnickety. Love it.
Persnickety, which
Yeah,
that's a lot of what I went off of. Was which also a great word, Persnickety.
it is.
So I jumped in there. I'd had one audition once before for One Calls the Heart, but after reading the breakdown for Edwin Mitchell, breakdown being the information that the casting directors give us,
Right.
I remember thinking, "Oh, okay, this fits. I think I know how to do this."
I loved it. I was saying a few minutes ago, I love that you were in that bathing suit and sitting in the hot springs, which I know were real because the woman who had created them and constructed them, she had been a guest and she taught us all about it. But so you actually had to get into that water and you also had to wear a bathing suit.
Yes,
Tell
and
us about it.
not just any bathing suit, a wonderful period bathing suit. Of
Yes.
course, the fantastic costume designer Barbara over at One Calls the Heart. I was very lucky, actually. I was doing some filming for the series Monarch, which was the Godzilla series for Apple, when I had booked When Calls the Heart, and I was going from on set there, which was actually just a few blocks away from Barbara's house because I wasn't
Oh,
available for the fittings. And
okay.
Barbara invited me over and was like, "Oh, it's okay. It's fine. You don't because it's out of town where usually some
I
of the
love
fittings
that.
and things go, or we go to the production offices, which are just outside of Vancouver as well."
Right.
So very graciously, she invited me over, and I was able to try on some of the different suits. And of course, the bathing suit came later, though. I think I got that one on the day, which was a wonderful surprise. But I was hinting a little bit before when we were chatting, before we started. I actually worked for Barbara very briefly. When I went to theater school, she was a costume designer for a production of The Crucible we did, the Arthur Miller play. And I was on the crew for that. In the early years, you start on the crew, so you do lighting, you do set design, you do all those things. So I was terrible at sewing. I was awful. So luckily, Barbara didn't remember me immediately, but I was good at knitting. So I knit all the little hand sort of cozies for the
Right,
characters,
right.
and that was where we first met initially.
That's actually cool. So she had that sense to know it was safe that you could enter her house, meet
Oh,
her family,
absolutely.
and you wouldn't become a stalker.
No, not at all. Like I said, we went way back.
Yes. Arlene, this is Arlene. She's a Hardy, and she said, "I bet Eric never thought he'd make his Hope Valley debut in a 1920s swimsuit."
I honestly did not. I imagine there would be some type of fun costuming involved.
Mhm.
The first audition I had from When Calls the Heart was for Constable Blake, who he was the Mountie who delivered Scout to Nathan.
Yes. Yes.
And for that audition, I'm sure if I dug it up, I wouldn't be able to do it right this second, but my partner, I borrowed, she has a big red jacket, but it's a very trim tapered women's winter jacket, but it's red.
Uh-huh.
So I ended up borrowing that. In fact, I've had to audition for a few Mounties, and that is the jacket I always
Usually
borrow.
wear.
Which it's not exactly a red surge, but it's close. But my dad was a Mountie, so I do have that
Oh,
connection. He was a member of
wow.
the RCMP. In fact, I anticipating this, I will show this photo of me as a
Okay.
child. So that's in my dad's
Oh,
red surge, and that's our dog there. So this was very baby Erik in an oversized red surge.
oh,
Yeah. So
I
yeah, I do have that connection to the show. So I was excited for the opportunity because, of course, my dad and actually quite a few members of my family are big fans of the show as well.
Oh, so that's nice. So now you're on. And you know what? I'm happy you didn't do the part of the Mountie because then we wouldn't like I know like they would really have to change you up, I think, in order for us to have you come in. But you're like so perfect for this current role that you have. So it was like meant to be. And I have Kathleen up. She says, Erik, I love your character, definitely persnickety when he came to town, and I loved how you would know how you would get annoyed when you had to share the hot springs with the children. I know that was a really good, like that was like a good couple of like episodes and them trying to figure out who you were. I said that you were like pretentious, but I was curious. Is I know they said persnickety, so that for you would be scripted, or did you kind of like make a backstory? And you don't have to share your backstory, but
Oh,
did you kind of make like a backstory in your head so you could feel the part because you do it well.
thank you. I attribute it when I was growing up. I watched a lot of Frasier and news satire shows, so I felt that side of it came very easy. The politics
Yeah.
and that sort of elevated way of being. A lot of my training in school, I love doing period plays, so all the Oscar Wilde and Shakespeare and Shaw and all of those. Big Jane Austen fan, so that kind of energy I always love to get to play around with. In fact, I'd say the hardest part was being mean to the kids because they're
Oh,
all absolutely
they're cute.
wonderful and
Yeah,
just fantastic kids.
they are.
And funny enough, because we're a lot of us are locals to Vancouver. He Billy we played family members in a short film probably a
Oh wow.
good 2 years before that, 1 or 2 years. I played his dad. So it's funny the little connections. Billy, of course, Toby
Toby, I know Billy
on the
Christos, yes,
show.
junior, I gotcha, yes. He's cute, he's got a really cool storyline,
Oh, I
this
love his arc
season.
right now. Yeah.
Yes, he's a doll. He has the greatest, facial expressions.
Mm.
Like, he doesn't even have to say anything, and he says it all with his face, as do you. Like, I in the very beginning, you're all stressed out because Lucas is shot, and I gotta go, and then some of the things that make me laugh out loud is when your character doesn't like what's happening, like what Lucas wants, if it's probably against what you think is his character, your character thinks is best. I do know the difference between reality and TV show here. But you'll be like with your faces, and even though you're not saying anything, we know you're not on. You're like, no, like you have really good theater face.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and to talk a little bit about that, you'd mentioned before, like what the process is. I'm sure you and a lot of the Hardys know that we shoot so much of the material on such a tight timeline
Yes. Yes.
that myself and all the actors, there's so much work that goes into it ahead of time. My respect for everyone on the show is absolutely through the roof. We might have one or two takes on any given scene. So
Mhm.
everyone comes in with all these amazing ideas and a really strong sense of who they are on the show and their characters. And in such a collaborative way, everyone plays as well. So you have all of these ideas that have never been rehearsed necessarily, but everyone just takes everybody's ideas and they run with it. And it makes for such an incredible environment to work in.
which is nice. And I have to tell you that every time I've had a guest on, whether they were someone who was in the production part or they've been a character that's been there for a while or someone new, they all say the same stuff. They always say how, like exactly what you said, and then also how it feels like a family and it's warm-hearted, and you're not telling us we don't know, and it gets conveyed across the screen, which is why I think it's had all these years, so it must be like, you must be like, yes, I'm a part of this now.
It's a lovely feeling, and even before I stepped on the set, I knew it was something special just based on all the reactions and the love from the fans. It's
Yes.
obviously felt not just from those involved, but those who are watching the show as well. And I think it's really strongly felt. It's a special thing to get to walk onto a production like that.
I know. I'm just sharing some love before we move on. Nikki's saying, Eric, have you been in anything with Chris before, or did you know him before One Calls the Heart? Because you guys are great together on screen, really great together, good scene
He's
partners.
fantastic. One of the best things to come out of getting to do the show is getting to meet and work with Chris. I wish I'd worked with him before this, and I hope I get to work with him more after. He's such a lovely energy on set. There's just this wonderful welcoming sense. Getting to come to Hope Valley, Jamestown is the name
Yes,
of the little set
yes.
area, and getting to work with Chris. He's who I work with the most on set, and he's such a kind, generous scene partner, but generous person. So getting to work with him, I'd work with him any day of the week.
Oh, that's nice. That's so nice.
Also, he shares great recipes and places to eat around town. He's
Always,
absolutely
always.
worth it for that alone.
One time he was sharing with us a recipe for I think it's a stuffed chicken. I'm not sure. So everybody had to go run out and buy the cookbook. It's not his, but one that he recommended. And it was close to Christmas, and everybody asked for their Christmas on their Christmas list, because people would send me emails and say, "I got that cookbook." I almost wanted everybody to take a picture with the cookbook next to their face and send it out. It's like funny.
It's not surprising. I can definitely say, in terms of the energy of when we're backstage, when
Hmm.
we're off camera between shots and things, a lot of the male energy backstage, I'll say, a lot of it is recipe talks, place in town. I know
Cabin.
Kevin
Yeah.
is an
Yes.
amazing chef as
Yes.
well. But between Kevin and Chris, I'll talk with them between shots, and just like taking all of these bits of information, being like, "Oh, this place," and Kevin will be like, "Yeah, you want to go there?" But the French place across the street is like, excellent. Writing all the notes down. There's wealth of information.
You're bonding. You're bonding.
Yes.
Um, what's Kathy saying? Hi, Eric. I love your character. It reminds me of the Pushy Taylor, the town mayor from Gilmore Girls. Oh my God.
That's so funny enough. When I was doing research, when I was working on the role, I was looking up characters that fit within that world. And I'm a big Gilmore Girls fan. So that was
Oh,
definitely one of the characters that sprung to mind for me in terms of looking,
okay.
especially it's also a pushy that lives inside a world like Hope Valley. So
Yes. Yes, that's
trying
true.
to find inspiration because it's subtle, and we know people like this in our lives, and trying to honor that as best I can.
I know. Arlene says, love the line hats and guns, and then Edward's realization that it was a possible insult. Great facial expressions you gave.
That was a fun scene. I think that was my first scene, possibly with Kevin as well, I
Mhm.
think, if I'm not mistaken. But also with the height and the stature, it is getting to stare back at him.
Yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of that is just genuine reaction.
Okay, that's funny. Stacy said my favorite Edwin scene so far was stage managing, running tech for the governor's Easter broadcast. The pauses and clapping cues were hilarious. How much of that did you improvise, or was it all scripted?
Let's see if I remember this correctly. I want to say it was something we discovered on the day. I
Hmm.
can't remember if it was written in, but we definitely either came up with it on the day, or we certainly accentuated it from what was on the page. And it was a ton of fun because it's the little radio unit, and
Mhm.
nobody has a specific way of how it works. And I was having fun with there's so many knobs and buttons and switches
Right.
and things on it. So playing with that, and especially one of the directions we've been going with Edwin as a character is that ringleader, fixer kind of
Mhm.
character who's
Mhm.
trying to run everything. But at the end of the day, what I love about it, and especially characters like that, is in their mind, they're certainly up here. But when it comes to trying to direct everyone, it takes a lot of effort. And whether anyone's listening is a whole other
Well,
matter
that's true.
entirely.
Because all those guys that you're like, I call it, Lucas's cabinet, even though there's no such thing, but, we're taking what? Artistic license here with having a governor.
And we don't have governors in Canada. That is
Right,
that is a
exactly.
technical thing as well.
Yes.
So absolutely, it's his cabinet.
Yeah. So, I'm looking at all the men and I'm thinking to myself, now that Henry is on, now you only answer this the best way that you can. I'm curious because now that Henry is part of the cabinet and all those guys and Leah's mayor, I'm thinking to myself, Edwin wasn't even around. So do we get a reaction from these guys? Do we ever see Edwin react? Yes, no, maybe?
Well, in some of it was when Lucas was in hospital, and there's a scene where
Yes.
Henry drops by. We have a little interaction there, which I think
Yes.
is some nice foreshadowing of
Okay.
how good of collaborators we are. There's
Yes.
some sort of handshake, not quite sizing each other up energy, which we'll definitely explore some more of that. And Martin is a wonderful scene partner in all the scenes that we got to do together. It actually, I'd say Martin especially has been, in terms of dynamics with Edwin, some of the most fun.
Oh, that's nice to hear. That's nice. Do you have like, okay, so that's one of your faves. Do you have any other favorites that stand out? It could be a line you had, a scene, well, we see this scene partner here, a costume, things that we've already seen though. Nothing that would be a spoiler. No
Oh,
spoiler.
something the radio scene was one of the most fun to do. That was
Okay.
definitely one we had a lot of people involved in it. It was a fun day. It's also more of that goofier side of, well, not necessarily. It is goofy to
It is.
the observer, not to Edwin. It's a very important job.
No, you're a very serious
Um,
guy.
and it's such a fun place to play in. In terms of the costumes I get to wear, they really
Mm.
are fun. And one of the suits I wear, especially, I remember Barbara telling me, I think it's a white sort of checkered suit that I wear at times. I like to think of it as like my dress ensemble, like if I'm really trying to impress. And a few of my suits are hand-me-downs for when Hickam was running for mayor, that
Oh,
they were options. They didn't necessarily go with them. So
yeah.
I always found that to be rather fun. So it's that very authoritative feeling that
Yes.
I get to have in that.
I have to say though, like Lucas is a sharp dresser
Oh,
and
certainly.
Lee is too, but he's kind of quirky too. But I found you to be like you looked very well put together and sharp and from money. It didn't look like, you when I saw you as a tourist, I was thinking you were somebody with money, then to find out later on what your position was. So they're dressing you nice. You're fitting the role nicely. And like it was this pleasant surprise for us to be like, oh, this is who you are. And Lucas even kind of is like, oh, this is who you are.
And curiously enough, it was a surprise to me as well. And one of those lovely things when it comes to episodic television, because it's something that's developing as the
Yeah.
season's going on. And I imagine there must have been a place where there was an aide to the governor who was in
Hmm.
the scripts. And I like to think I'm just so great to work with. They were like, oh, let's bring them back.
We have to keep
Um,
them.
Right. Actually, I did receive one of the nicest comments ever was from Neil, who's the director on that first episode I was
Hmm.
on. And he took me aside after and he was like, just so you know, I wrote, I saw your audition. And just on the corner of my notes, I wrote STW. And I was like, I have no idea what that means. He was like, straight to wardrobe. That was just, I saw it and I knew that's the guy.
Oh,
which was the most touching thing to hear. It's always nice to it's because although we're such a collaborative industry, it's a lot of the time you're so focused on your job that it's hard to know where you fit in everything. So that kind of feedback was lovely. And getting to play with all the different departments. Actually, my favorite department to work with on set. I do a little bit of sound and videography as well. So I love Nick and Tom over in sound. So I'll hang out with them on set. But the props department, I'm constantly going up to them during scenes and just asking for things to play with. For example, my favorite line. Actually, this will lead into that. The Easter egg hunt.
yes.
That was a bit I came up with, and I remember going over to props and being like, I don't know if you have this, but do you have some period appropriate cue cards? Just something I can get. So I'll constantly be going over there and be like, do you have this? And the amazing thing is they've never come back and not been able to.
They're creative.
They're amazing. And also in terms of production designers, because small world, I went to school with Sarah, who's
Oh, I love Sarah. Oh, she is so
we love
wonderful.
everyone. We all love Sarah.
Yes.
We used to be nearly neighbors, just sort of down the street, live from each
Oh,
other. Ben, who of course plays Montague, I met him during the filming of the show. He lives 2 blocks away from me, so we would carpool to set. We help each other with auditions now.
oh, that's cool.
So it's yeah, those funny little connections.
That's
Forget,
nice.
yeah,
It's a small world, isn't it?
it's
It
a
really is.
small world.
It really is small. I wanted to share more of what they're saying before. I mean, our time is up. I feel like you've been here for 1 minute. I mean, we covered so much. Kathleen is saying, Eric, watching you talk about your character, I'm noticing that you have such an expressive face. I love it, and you do a wonderful job with your character.
Thank
Aw.
you so much, Kathleen.
Now, this is cute. Kathy says, Eric, I would love to see scenes with Bill. He would be the Luke to your Taylor. Comedy gold. It's you know what? Listen, I hope we're the showrunners listening and getting some ideas for future episodes. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, this is funny. Lillian says we were a little disappointed that we didn't get to see Edwin in a bunny suit. Darn it. Did they even contemplate putting you in one or no?
It's funny. I remember when I first got the draft of that script, and Nathan says the thing about Edwin in a bunny suit, and I remember reading it, and I stopped and went, "Do I get to wear the bunny suit?" And I'm flipping through it. Unfortunately, not.
Yeah, yeah.
But I maybe at the second annual Governor's Easter egg hunt. Glad.
Okay. That would be great. We demand it. So we're gonna put that out there. We'll make that go viral, okay, for you. We'll make it trend. How's
All the
that?
holiday mascots, they'll get Edwin to do it.
We made a chocolate bunny trend, so we can make Edwin in a bunny suit trend. um, this Joanne has a question for you. It's like a little bit of a technical one. Are we supposed to assume that your character didn't know his previous boss was a scoundrel? I love that word,
Well,
scoundrel.
he was a politician, so I mean, we
Yeah.
start there. But in
Mhm.
all honesty, it's a lot of for us and the actors, and then the discussions we have, especially with the directors on set.
Right.
We get to make those decisions as we're going. And I think the interesting thing for me when I look at the character of Edwin, especially, and what I love about the show, my partner and I actually, since we started, we've watched every episode of the entire series. We did at between 10 and 11. We sat down, we're like, we're going to watch every episode.
Excellent.
But that Hope Valley effect on characters who can live in a bit of a sort of a
Mm,
gray area,
yeah.
but you see these wonderful examples of
Mhm.
how a person can be. And it's what I love about shows like When Calls the Heart and the Ted Lassos and those shows
Yes.
where people
Yes.
we're seeing examples of, oh, this is a good way to be. This is what we can aspire to, as opposed to, I feel there's so many shows on television right now where it's more cautionary tales or the anti-heroes and the villains and that,
Yeah.
where I love getting to see a show where you see positive role models and you
Mhm.
see constructive constructive examples of community. It's so I like to think it's that effect that we've seen with a lot of characters over the run of the series, where they come to Hope Valley and there's a reformative aspect to it, and it helps. It may not be who they were before, but it gives them the opportunity to be something more.
Yes, their redemption arc.
Redemption
Yes.
arc.
That was a very good answer. Good answer.
Thank you.
Teresa says, "Do you have any input? Did you have any input regarding your wardrobe?"
I had, and again, I'd say it's probably more of a prop item than
That's true.
wardrobe. Is if you watch back, you'll often see Edwin with his pocket watch, and
Okay.
that sort of that idea. I thought of that the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. That's sort of
Yes.
constantly
Yes.
we
Yes.
have places to be.
Yes.
Um,
Good. Good. That's
Having
good.
that constant something to do and fixate on. So I'd say
Mhm.
that'd be the one thing where they gave me a few options, and I was like, that I'm feeling that one.
Nice.
Nice little engraving on it and everything.
Yeah, so that's you and your little backstory coming out, like, but in a
Absolutely.
now we're gonna go back and when we rewatch, we're gonna look for that, and then we're gonna keep looking for that. So that's pretty cool. Um, Laurie is saying, "What a great interview, and you're doing a great
Oh,
job."
thank you, Lori.
Then we have this is a cool question. Let's tackle this one before we wrong one before we say good night. It says, "Not sure if this was asked. How did you get into acting and are you doing improv here and there in the show?" So, just a little tiny blurb of how you got into acting. Not
Absolutely.
when you were in
Oh,
kindergarten. No, I'm only kidding. Go ahead.
I mean, of course. I had a lot of health issues as a kid. So I actually
Oh.
was very much in the sports family. Like all my like I said, my father was RCMP. I have family in the armed forces, literal
Mhm.
lumberjacks. It's a very Canadian lifestyle. My brother was a mechanic, so I kind of fell into acting and music because I had to leave sports and things behind. Oh, it's good. It's all good
Okay.
now.
It is. Look, it turned out like this.
Yeah. So so I started there, and it was actually at BC Children's Hospital where I had some wonderful nurses who that's how they would cheer me up, is they would bring me these movies and things, and it kind of made me realize, well, I'm either going to be a doctor, or I also this it was it started out as a bit of like an escapism there, and
Right.
then turned into I recognized how much it can be therapeutic and help people.
Oh, that's a
Um,
wonderful story. That's like
yes,
I love that story. Robin, thank you for asking
yeah,
this.
and I'll share the most Edwin-y thing I can about myself. When I was
Okay.
16 years old, I graduated early, and I wrote a letter to the Derby Gilbert and Sullivan Society in England asking if I could come join. I was a big Gilbert and Sullivan fan. I
Okay.
studied opera before. I went opera to musical theater into acting for film and television. So they wrote me the loveliest letter saying, "No, no one should do this. Just go do something else, please." But so hopefully that gives you a bit more of an idea of the stretch from Erik to Edwin is not that much.
That's funny. That's cool. Arlene says, "Are you a gamer? Like your voice, a character, Mike from Resident Evil." Oh,
So I do a good amount of voiceover. There's a few animated series, some that haven't come out yet that are soon. I know that we sign so many things.
I know.
It's amazing we can say anything at all in these interviews.
I know. I know.
But yeah, a lot of children's animation I do, and then video games as well. And of course, when I wasn't well enough to act and do music, you can believe it was all the books, the Jane Austen, the classics, but also video games. That was a big one too.
Look at that. Okay, that's cool. And I think I always do a little background research. I did see that you did voices, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. I can hear it. You have that kind of voice, right? Yeah. Let's see. This is a nice one. Thank you for this insight. So awesome and grateful, and you're doing well now.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you so much.
Yes. And people, I know you can't answer this, but there are many people who are asking, don't answer. I'm just going to say this, that are
Let's see if I
asking,
can give the most Edwin sort
no,
of
no, don't, you
word
don't even have to
around
answer.
answer to
No,
it.
they're asking if you're going to return, but the point is because they want you to return. So that's
Oh,
what's
that's right.
important. They would like for you to keep coming back. That's what they're that's the reason for asking, which is nice.
That's lovely.
Yes. Yes. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
This
you.
is
Yeah,
a fantastic
absolutely.
interview, Eric. You just nailed it. Have you were so generous and kind. You
Thank
were.
you, Peter. Well, thank you again for the invitation.
Yes.
It's a lovely opportunity to talk about the show. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I can't wait to see more of Edwin in the next, I don't know, we have what, 7 episodes left. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be fun. All right.
Thank you so
Good
much.
night.
Have a great
Good
evening.
night. Bye. All right. Now I got to kick him out.
We're gonna kick me out. Yeah.
Kick you out. Kick you out, kick you from the studio. Loved him. And I am going to, yes, you love the interview. I have another guest, a guest co host. Look who it is. Bryce, you're on mute. You have to unmute yourself. Hello, Bryce. How are you?
Hi there, doing good. How are you all doing?
We're good. So we just finished talking to Eric,
Hmm.
and I'm so excited to have you here because you're a Hardy. And I always ask my guest co-hosts how they became a Hardy. So tell us, not like in an hour, but tell us how you became a Hardy.
Okay, I'll try to do the short version. It's
Okay,
actually
short
it's
version.
actually my wife's fault.
That's a good
We
start.
so shout out to her. Hi, honey. Oh, wait, there's my hand. Um, we were on vacation in Hawaii back in 2022, and the place we were staying had these DVDs that you could check out and then watch in your room. And so we were looking for some, and she found these DVDs called "When Calls the Heart." We had no idea what they were, and but they looked interesting, so we took them. They had three. It was actually the first 6 episodes. Each two were in kind of the hour and a half movie format.
Mm-hmm.
And so we watched the first hour, and we're like, or the first movie, and we were just like, wow, this is pretty awesome. Um, we liked period dramas because we had previously watched Anne with an E on Netflix,
So good.
and yeah, it was such a great series, and we were so bummed that they canceled it after only three
What,
seasons. But
3, right? 3 seasons.
yeah,
Yeah.
thankfully, When Calls the Heart is still going.
Yes.
So yeah, and that's kind of how we fell into it. And then we came back home and we basically watched the entire. At that time, it was 9 seasons in the span of about a month.
All right. So wow, you
Um,
were like living it when like, oh
mhm.
my goodness, that's like in your head. That's like when I binge reading. Like I read and read and read, but I don't really I used to do that when I was younger. I like to savor things now. Lillian saying, "Hey Bryce, you got all your fans here." Deb Johnston, you know who she is. She's like, "Bryce."
Oh yeah,
Susan's
Deb,
like,
or as it's hi Deb from as she put it a couple weeks ago. That guy in San Diego that I'm always talking to.
I know that was funny. Remember when she did that? That was cute. And you're like,
Mhm.
that's me. I love it.
Yeah, yeah,
You're saying hi. There's a lot of people saying hi. Do you see where you can see the comments on your device up in the
yeah.
upper right hand corner? Okay, good. All
Hmm.
right. So, Bryce, when I was chatting with Bryce, I was like, pick your feet. Well, because there's a lot that went on in that episode, this last episode. Pick your favorite storyline, and let's talk about it. Even though it may not be hit, it wasn't at all in the last episode,
No, it
but
wasn't.
still, it's a storyline that we have to talk about because it's a good one. It's something new. It was a surprise that I am loving. And I think there could be more to it. I just discovered something. So talk to us about Faith's storyline, Bryce. What are your feelings about it?
I really liked how Lily came into her life at what seemed like just the right time. You know, we lost Fiona because of Kayla getting another amazing acting opportunity. But the character, stayed behind in Nashville working with the suffragettes. And now we've got May and Mike. Their relationship is blossoming. So I guess May is
Yeah.
probably spending less time at home or less time with
With
her roommate, and
yeah.
so Faith was feeling kind of lonely, and so then this little girl and her sick grandmother show up, and the grandmother ends up being taken off to I think it was Union City, and she asks Faith to watch her granddaughter, and I just thought that was just it like I said, it was just the perfect time for this little girl to come into Faith's life when she was feeling pretty lonely.
I know. Do you
And
know what's cute too is that when we first met Faith, she was spicy. She had a bit of a spice to her. And I like that her the little girl does too. Like it
hmm
keeps her on her toes. They're a good match.
they are.
Now, what do you think is going to happen with them in the future? How do you think that story is going to progress? What do you anticipate?
Hmm. Hard to say. I would imagine eventually her grandmother is going to get better, and I mean, my first guess is her grandmother will get better, and then she'll eventually come back and take Lily back with her, or maybe she'll decide to stay in Hope Valley, and Faith will continue to kind of be the honorary Auntie Faith. Maybe next year, if she's still around, she might start going to school. That's
Mm,
kind of what I'm hoping will happen. That
yeah.
she'll stay around.
I'm hoping that too. And something interesting. So when we met the character of Faith, she was the nurse who nursed back Tom, which was Jack's
hmm
brother. And he's coming back. The actor Max
Yeah,
he's a wonderful actor. He's coming back, and I think he's on for 2 episodes. He looks so stinking handsome. He looks like a young Brad Pitt from the side. He's a great guy. Is in real life he has this beautiful sort of like an English accent. Anyway, um, we have a picture that they released, and I didn't have a chance. I know everybody could see it. So she's there. There must be in a big function of some sort, and he's there. And I'm thinking, wouldn't that be cute? She's happy to see him. She nursed him back to health. Maybe he could stay on, and it could be a love interest for her.
maybe that's well,
Maybe.
in Hope Valley, you just never know.
Not that everybody has to be paired up. I'm not a fan of that. And this is her big love story with Lily. Like I think like we never saw her character. Um she always, of course, she wanted to fall in love and find someone because she's the one that has had so many like at first like some sad relationships, like her fiance leaves her and then she dates this Ray from the railroad, and he was a little bit on the abusive side, and then she dated the dad who had the little boy, and then that kind
Oh,
of,
yeah, Shane Cantrell.
yes, didn't go anywhere because he had to leave. So and then of course there's Carson, and that didn't go well. So I'm like, Faith needs
Right.
some like a grand love, and I'm glad that they gave it to her in a totally different way, which is cool. Thank you
Yeah.
to the showrunners. That was one of the storylines in the beginning of the year, beginning of the season. I said, oh, that's one of two that I didn't know I needed. The other was May and Mike. Loving their storyline. Didn't think I was going to, but I do. I love how it's going.
Yeah, I
Um,
like their pairing too.
you do? Did you want to add
hmm
anything else about Faith? Susan here is saying Faith needed a big story. So glad that it got developed.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I think it was good that she just got that storyline, and because I mean she's been involved in things like probably the big thing last season was Rosemary's pregnancy, but and then
Hmm.
the dealing afterward with helping Rosemary with being a motherless mother.
Yes.
Um, but she hasn't really had a lot of, um, I guess you could say, a lot of real juicy storylines. So now this is something I think that's really nice for her.
Yeah, I know. This is a good one. Um, Lucy says, I love that story. I think Faith will adopt her. And Christina is saying Faith's journey with the little girl is my favorite. And Robin's reminding us of how she had feelings for Nathan, and that was another thing that didn't pan out. But
Yeah,
but that one seemed to end well, though. The others were on the sadder side, but this one wasn't. So it's a good storyline. And now I'm
hmm
I'm happy that I don't know, I'm happy that they didn't rush it. It's a little bit at a time because it keeps us on our toes. We're not quite sure where it's going to go. It reminds me a little bit of what happened with Abigail when she had the opportunity to adopt her children,
Oh,
Cody
right, Cody and
and
Becky.
his sister.
hmm
Yeah, yeah. So it's an echo, kind of not a repeat, but more of an echo of what they've had from the past. And I feel like I haven't like I would like your opinion on this. Do you feel like they're sometimes they're repeating and sometimes they're echoing storylines that we've seen before? Are you seeing that? Like, but with different players? Are you or no?
Uh, yeah, I have seen. I'm trying to think of now one of the storylines that I actually thought about this a while back, and there was a storyline that I thought this is kind of a bit of a rehash of another plot that we'd seen in the past, and now I can't think of what it was. I
Okay,
hate when that happens.
there are people, that are out here that have opinions on that. That would be interesting if you shared them with us. Um, it says Mountie N is saying, "What if Carson comes back and Faith and Carson will get back together?" They could. I mean, they could. I feel like they've grown in different directions, but what do you think, Bryce?
Um, I feel like the two of them, yeah, they both needed to grow as individuals, and it kind of pushed them in different, like you said, in different directions. I feel like they'll at least always remain friends, although aside from I think one time in I think it was in season 9 where we saw her talking on the phone with him. We've never really heard anything about him since then,
Right.
but I'd like to think that they will at least maintain a friendship and talk to each other. But I kind of don't really see it going beyond that. And
Yeah.
he's off in another city, and he may um, find the love of his life
Yeah, there.
over there. Who knows? Yeah.
Mhm. That's true. That's true. Christina's saying she does see some repeats in the story, and Robin
Mhm.
says, "Yes, I'm noticing that a bit this season for sure." And Kathy is like saying she's been on a long time. She deserves a meaningful story, and love comes in all forms. Yes, and I love
Yeah.
that message. That's a wonderful message.
Yeah. Actually,
So,
one repeat that, or not, well, it's sort of a repeat that just
mhm,
came to mind right now is in the last couple of episodes we had Toby having his issue with math and fractions, and you may remember way back in season 1 there was that young man Bo who turned out to be dyslexic that
yep,
Elizabeth was helping him, and I mean, in a sense, it's kind of a repeat or a similar situation, but I think also it just proves and it helps to illustrate how good of a teacher she is
yes,
in
yes.
helping these kids with these individual problems.
I like that storyline, and I like that it's progressing. I would love to have the actor who plays him, Billy, on because he's doing such a good job. He broke my heart when he was sitting in the library and she found him in there, and he was like just so sad that.
Hmm.
And Elizabeth hasn't had like a true storyline about helping a student and that was just like so involved until the first time the Canfields came and there was that whole storyline. Like we haven't seen that for a couple of seasons. So they still are though doing a better job this year of keeping her in the classroom and we get bits and pieces of what's going on and that's okay. But I loved it when the story that for that episode was about a particular child or family. I kind of
Hmm.
miss that, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember that also from I think it was season 5. We mentioned Philip's father earlier, but there was Philip, with when he was having the problem where he couldn't see very well, and
Mhm.
then she helped him with uh, getting glasses, and then it turned out that he had glaucoma, and of course that was the
Mhm.
last we saw of him. Um, but yeah, I like it when there's situations like that involving the kids that she can help with.
I do too. I like that a lot. So, I had Eric on and we were talking about the cabinet, because there's no real governor
Right.
in there. Okay, so I feel like they're building a cabinet for Lucas, and I find it interesting that Henry, I always thought that he was going to wind up saying yes. And I found it hilarious that he threw himself back in, and the next time you saw him, his shirt collar wasn't even like in the tie was askew, which is I don't did you notice that, Bryce, how he was
I
dressed?
did. I did. I kind of got the feeling that he was there, but he didn't really want to be, but he felt like he
Yes.
was,
Yeah.
doing it for Lucas and for the town.
Yes, I know. I think that's funny. And now he's building a cabinet. He now has with him also Lee. And I always thought Lee was going to be mayor because they spent so much time on him trying to find his purpose. But they really took us on a journey for him to get there. Like even last season, though he didn't win, we could, and the season before, we could still feel him trying to find his purpose and fit in. So I'm glad that he finally is mayor. And I loved how they made Rosemary's reaction. So those two are my favorite couple, like as a couple, even though I did love Jack and Elizabeth, but it took them 900 years to get together. And then you know how that went. And
Yeah.
I did like Elizabeth's with Lucas, but it was the Lucas that I loved. I loved him and his passion and his romance. But as a couple, Rosemary and Lee are my favorite because they've been a couple forever, right? And they're never boring and they're hilarious and they are okay with each other's quirks. Do you notice that, or you have a
Yeah.
different opinion?
No, you're absolutely right. And they're probably the longest running couple we've seen on the show. I mean, they got married at the end of season 3, and they've been together since the end, basically since the middle of season 2.
Yes.
And yeah, and I do like them as a couple. I think personally, my favorite is always going to be Jack and Elizabeth. But
Okay.
I and like you, I liked Lucas and Elizabeth together. And one thing I liked about it was how different Lucas was from Jack.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of liked the
It was
idea.
all about her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we saw for the first 5 seasons, we saw the teacher and the Mountie. Then for a couple of seasons, we saw the teacher and the businessman.
Yeah.
So, and although now it looks like it may be heading back towards the teacher and the Mountie,
Oh,
but
it is. It's going, it's taken a long walk. We'll talk about that in a minute. So, since we've mentioned a little bit about Henry and he's taken on his role, I love it. And I'm hoping they'll explore that more along the way. And Lee. So now we've got the guys and they're trying to develop what's going on I love that they used the word grand because for too long they were doing the word grand as something negative, which it is not, which is upsetting to me when they say that because I'm someone who likes to make giant grand gestures. So they kiddos called it the grand vision, his grand vision. And Opal
yep,
draws out
the
that
GV.
gorgeous, yes, the GV, and draws that gorgeous idea of how she visions the resort. And Lucas loves it. So then, of course, the other big thing that went on was the jogging of his memory when he saw the photograph. And I love Bill when Bill turns, it's like Bill and I know I'm getting sidetracked. And everyone else here, I thought this was funny. Bill and Rosemary are hilarious together because they're crotchety and pushy and both, so they go and they crash into the mountain and Nathan's sitting there like, why are you here? They crash in and they're like, about it's there's got to be a different shooter and the new stuff that they found. And then Nathan looks at Bill like, what? And he's like, we're partners, right? He looks at her and he says that. I'm like, oh, this is so great. Like Bill really, and she's touched. She's like, yeah. So who do you think shot JR? No, I'm only kidding. Who do you think shot Love?
I never watched Dallas, so I couldn't tell you that one. But that's a good question. I mean, my first thought was probably going where everyone else was, that it was either Montague or maybe somebody working for him. I'm not sure if it really was this Clayton Pike guy. Maybe he was hired to do it, and he's just taking the fall. Maybe he got paid well to do it. It's hard to say. I know some people. Speaking of Erik, just having been here, some people think it was Edwin. I don't.
No, I don't either. I don't.
But it was obviously somebody that he recognized, or at least somebody that he recognized was there. Maybe that person wasn't the actual shooter, but he knew at least somebody that was there in the picture. So I'm hoping that we get this mystery solved soon because it's keeping me on pins and needles here.
It's like since episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's always who shot him. There, it's moving far too slow for me. Is talk about slow. The other storyline that's far too slow for me is the storyline between Nathan and Elizabeth. Like we need to get the show on the road. I'm not saying you have to walk them down the aisle because Brian Bird said that's when the show's over. Okay, I don't know why, but I just feel like and the way Elizabeth is behaving to me, I don't know, her character's immature. But let's see. I'm just looking. Someone said, I love the kids calling. I thought someone had said something about Elizabeth, but So recently, or those last words that were shared was because he asked her, what am I to you, or to you,
Mhm.
are we just friends, right? And then they get interrupted. And then at the end, she says,
Always.
I know, she walks up to him and she says, friends don't look at friends like this, or how we,
Mhm.
look like. Okay. So I have such a, and I know there are Nathan and Elizabeth fans here, and I'm okay, but if I were you, I'd feel ripped off, because that doesn't make sense. Because really, look at how she's looking at Lucas here. See that look?
Yeah.
Look at how she's looking at Lucas here. See that look?
Mhm.
Look at how she's looking at Lucas here. I could go on and on and on. It's just
I
like,
know.
pick something different. Not that, because it's not believable to the rest of us,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
she looks at him the way she looked at Jack. And I don't see him, or I don't see her looking at Nathan that way. But the other thing that kind of bugs me is just that nobody ever seems to be able to say what's on their mind. I mean, when Elizabeth came into Nathan's office and he was kind of, brushing her off. Oh, I have paperwork to fill out. Why doesn't he just say, are you and Lucas an item again, or what's going on?
Yeah.
But no, he just clams up, and it's not the first time that this sort of thing has happened, and both of them, I think,
Mhm.
have done some of that. So
I
just
hear you.
say it.
Yes, just say it. Thank you. Kerry's saying Nathan and Elizabeth need to have a date. And Kathy over here saying, oh, it's aggravating. I think the writers need to pull off the band-aid. She kissed Lucas all over town, and now she's like a little mouse. I know. Lock the lips. Let's go. We need some lip locking, and let's go. Are you listening over here, showrunner? I hope you did that. I know they can't change it now, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Martha, Nathan needs to grow up. He does. He's still, but you know what? I want Nathan to make Elizabeth work for it. Because if we look at it, she ripped out his heart, stomped all over it, jumped on it, and he couldn't move on. And I need for him, I need for her to like treat him nicely, like really let him know. And I want him to let her know, you hurt me. You gotta like earn your way back in. I don't know if that's the right words. What do you think?
um I think they just need to get it out there, whatever it is that they might be feeling for each other. Quit the song and dance and tiptoeing, and just say it already. That's
Yes,
where I'm
yes,
at.
yes.
If it's and if one of them says something and the other one says, oh, I don't think I'm ready for this, fine. But you know don't keep each other hanging.
I
Either
know.
either either, either do it or don't.
Cindy said, Nathan better get moving because prom season's almost over. Oh God, that's
Yeah,
too
at,
funny.
at the rate he's going, Allie will be married before he is.
I oh, that's so good. That's good. That's good. I love that. That's a really good one. That's funny. Allie be married. He'll walk her down the aisle and he'll go, while I'm here, come on, Elizabeth, let's get hit. That'll be the season ending for whatever, because
Hmm.
they say if she gets hitched, that's it. Oh, Mountie N. Okay, Mountie N has got to love the storyline. So we got to put Mountie N here. We need to hear from Mountie N. They need to get together faster. It's honestly annoying. I know. Like, I hope they kiss in the next episode. I do. I think he walks her home and has her books in her hand. And maybe at one point, I thought she was going to kiss him, that she was going to be the aggressor. And I would like that. I'd be okay. I'd be okay with that. People are going, yes, Bryce. They're agreeing with you. We like when that happens. Gene's your new best friend, Bryce. That's why we say, oh, you agree with me? You're the best friend.
Hmm.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I kind of had that same feeling when Nathan pulls Elizabeth aside to talk to her, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought, is this it? Is there going to be a kiss coming up now? And then, like every time there's a scene like that, interruption.
Yes,
In comes
interruption.
Henry,
I know,
and
that was funny. So, since we're talking about these two, I liked well, it's not that I liked, I could see they used Lucas as a catalyst to get that relationship moving. So I saw Lucas, and he's a compassionate character, and I like that they're keeping that about him. And he's in the saloon, and he looks over, and there's Nathan playing darts, and he goes over to have like a chat with him,
Hmm.
and more or less say, go, like, what are you waiting for? Like, get out there, have some moxie. And but he says it in his nice little way. And I remember from like the last, well, when Elizabeth chose Lucas, Nathan and Lucas sit at the bar and have like they're sitting at the table having a drink, and he says about the what was happening when all the Pinkertons were there and whatnot. He said, I got your back. But he
Hmm.
also says he could tell that they had more going on. That's just what Nathan says to Lucas. Now, of course, they
Yeah,
flip all
yeah.
that around and get rid of that. But you could see where they were kind of building a relationship for the two of them. And I had asked this the other day. Do you think, in your opinion, that they'll become friends? I'm not saying best buds, but it doesn't look like it's going in that direction.
I mean, I feel like they've been friends up to this point, and I think they'll continue. In that scene you were talking about yesterday, I almost got the impression that Lucas was kind of giving Nathan his blessing to
Yes.
pursue Elizabeth, um, and then he kind and then later there's a scene in his office when Elizabeth comes in, and then he kind of does the same with her, kind of giving her the blessing to move on, if
Both
like
feet.
you said,
Yeah.
if she found something that would make her happy, jump in with both feet.
And fans were mad about that. And Brian Bird is like, we did that for the Hardys that love Lucas because it's such a Lucas thing to say and do because that was his great love. That was, he said he always knew that when he saw his great love, he'd be patient and take as long as it took to, develop. And
Hmm.
he was all in and very much in love with her, and he only wants the best for her. So him saying jump in with both feet, but she kind of smiled and left, and I was like,
Yeah.
you know what, girl, she considers herself to be good friends. She values his opinion. Like even when they were in doing that council meeting and she was asking, well, do you really think this is the thing to do with the school? And he goes, I do. And she goes, well, I trust you. Okay, I'm in. And she turns and she looks at Nathan and smiles because she values him like he is a friend, a good friend. And then she even has the nerve to say there was love, but it wasn't like my love with Jack. That's a repeat because in her journal, she writes that Lucas always knew her. He would be her lifetime nut. Nathan, they flip all that around. But what is my point? My point is this: Elizabeth and Nathan need to get the show on the road. That's my point. That is my point. Bryce, don't say anything. Yes, he only wants her to be happy. Oh, well, people were mad at Brian Bird. They're like, whatever, it's too, we don't want to hear that. It would have been nice if Elizabeth, how do you have things about Elizabeth and her feelings? And she's coming off, not the Elizabeth I love, she's coming off like a brat. I wish she had turned around and said, you deserve that because before he put me on a pedestal. I don't want to be a pedestal. I want my feet on the ground. Yeah, okay. Put your boots on the ground. Bye. Like, mm, yeah. So didn't Nathan tell Lucas Elizabeth's heart was always with him? Yes, yes. We already listen to me. We've been through this, people. We know they went and took a left or a right or whatever you want to call it. Yes, Teresa, she is almost acting like a narcissist, but they don't realize it's coming off that way. That is not what the intent was of the showrunner, but that is how it's coming off because we are very sensitive to all of it. That's why. My
Yeah, and I mean,
response to Brian Bird, go
sorry,
ahead.
sorry,
No.
I was just going to say, for my part, I mean, I love Elizabeth. I'm kind of like Lucas. I want her to be happy,
Hmm.
and but it seems like she's having trouble deciding what's going to make her happy.
That's
And
why they call her Dizzy Lizzy, which is a shame. Lillian says, my
I
response
didn't
to
hear
Brian
that.
Bird was, I wish E had told Lucas the same thing. I know. We all thought that. It's coming off wrong, even though that might not be their intent, you
I think
know?
maybe she's partly, I think at least a part of her is not completely over him yet.
Yeah.
and and
Right?
and not just for her own sake, but also because of the bond that Lucas and Little Jack built. That that's not quite going to be the same now that they're not going to be a family.
Bryce, that is your wishful thinking because that is not coming across the screen. That is not there on the screen. We all wish that. I agree with you. Um, okay, so I talked about my I love the Bill and Rosie as a team, and I think Maisie. I love it. Hickam, right? Hickam's sister. That she cracks me up, and that May got information out of her that they were able to use because it was all those men sitting around in her, and she was like giving
Hmm.
them a what for, and then she played right into their hands, and they kind of got what they wanted, and she was like, not happy. I thought that was hilarious. That was great, and I love the advancement of May and Hickam, and next episode is going to be great. They're going to have like a special dinner. Oh, there's this a spoiler alert, plug your ears, where she starts talking about her family. I don't know if you heard this, Bryce.
I
May's
did a
talking
sneak
about her
peek. Yeah.
family, right? And she talks about one of the dishes her mom makes, and it's so delicious. And he's like, he has those little looks on his face, and he's like, make it for me. And I'm like, oh my God. And it looks like they have a really beautiful dinner. The dinner, Martha. And this is why I'm going to ask. I don't know if Taylor's going to grant it to me or if we'll have time, but I want to have Sarah come on at the end of the whole season so she could talk about how they set up that beautiful scene, how they changed the office around from to what Lucas's new office is, just all the little things that they changed on the set was kind of dynamic. And I want her to come on and talk about it. And it looks like it's going to be really beautiful. It looks like she has the red globy type of
Hmm.
I forget what they're called. They're almost like lanterns. I think that's going to be beautiful. What's this here? What's this? Safe versus Nathan and Elizabeth. Be safe. Elizabeth loves attention, and now she doesn't want to be on a pedestal. She really brought that Billy Hamilton. Oh, okay, she got swindled. All right, these are just they're. It's okay. They're venting about whatever. Okay, so I am loving the. We are getting to yeah, I can't even speak. Learn about Hickam's family. She is hilarious, a great additional character for Mike. Yes. I'm very excited. Do you think that they're the couple that gets married, Bryce?
I was thinking about that. I think it would be too quick for it to be Nathan and Elizabeth, and who else is that far along in a relationship that it could be. So yeah, my I was thinking about that, and I'm leaning towards Mike and May.
Mm.
And you gotta love the expressions that Ben Rosenbaum does. I mean, his comedy is gold.
I want him and Amanda to come on and talk to us. I want them to share with us their journey as actors together. I think it's cool. I love it because, I don't know.
That'd
I
be
don't
fun.
know that they saw that coming because I didn't see it coming. You know what I mean? Did you see that relationship coming?
I didn't. I mean, I was expecting that maybe either May and Nathan might try to
Mhm.
pick up where they
Mhm.
left off, but or maybe maybe Mike and Faith might get together. But no, I didn't see Mike and May coming either.
So, let me share this, and I forgot I had a question, or maybe I asked the question and didn't pay attention because I'm trying to talk to Bryce and then trying to look at all of this. Brian Bird said they canceled Lucas and Elizabeth's wedding because their storyline would end. So now they're going to slow with Elizabeth and Nathan. Seems there'll never be a wedding. You know what, Sharon? I don't know. Brian Bird, not to insult him, but Brian Bird said a whole lot of stuff that was always contradicting and changing and whatever. And I find that hard to believe that on this type of a show, being married is your end story. Because I always was so looking forward to Elizabeth to marry Lucas or even marry Jack to get to see her as a mom, as a family. It's not boring with Rosemary and Lee. Why would it be boring with her as a married couple to finally see her happy? The angst part's getting on my nerves. I think that getting married to Nathan, I think, and then whatever storylines come with that would be a good thing. I think a lot of people, even people that have been waiting for the Nathan and Elizabeth storyline, are a little angsty and wishing that it would move on. So, Brian Bird, you're wrong. Listen to the Hardys. You're wrong. Get them hitched. Let's go. What was, oh, wait. So, wait, going back to the wedding. Martha says wait a minute, this is funny. They're talking to each other and I can't get it because they're moving so fast. Well, Martha's saying she loves Hickam. She always has. And Deb's saying to her, oh, really? We would have never known.
I saw that.
That's funny. Wait a minute. Brian Bird has said the same thing each time there's a potential wedding. Yes, and we do want her to write another book. I believe that too. She hasn't said a thing about writing. And what's the pink satin? Would the pink satin dresses, we've seen a picture. Yes, we've talked about that, Joan, before, probably. Yes. Okay, so my question was, because Bryce, you had a chance to share. I was wondering what everyone else was thinking. Who shot Lucas? Now, a lot of you joined in my podcast last night and shared, but those of you that may not have joined last night or had an opportunity live, who do you think shot Lucas? And I think it's someone he knows. And I'm really leaning towards Weinman. I feel like they would bring that character back and it could be him. That's just me. I'm
Are you
curious.
talking about Wyman Walden?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what everyone else thinks. Amos, yes, a lot of people said Amos. I don't know. I don't feel like that's who it is, but that's okay. I could see why people are saying that. I don't know everything. I think it's Wyman for whatever reasons. Lillian's the only one that said it so far. I guess they're all taking a minute. But is there anything else you'd like to chat about, Bryce, before we say goodnight? Because we've been talking for a long time.
Oh, it's been a good chat, but I don't have anything else at the moment. Just want to say thanks for having me.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Been fun.
It is fun, isn't it? Just to rehash stuff.
Yeah.
Kathy says she doesn't have a clue, and I love that. I hope it's a shock to keep us guessing. Okay. And then, of course, there are people who are agreeing with me, which makes me love them. We already know about Montague and the possibility of being him, Joanne, but he's seen on at the party, unless he's got a twin or they figured that out. I don't know. I feel like that's just too obvious. Don't you think it's too obvious? I think Montague's behind it, but I don't think it's him. Do you?
Oh, me? No.
You, yeah.
No, I don't think it was him personally, but I agree with you that I think he was somehow involved. I mean, remember he did say to Lucas, he said towards the end of season 10, he said, "You don't know who you've crossed," and that sounded like a threat right there.
You think Christina thinks it's she's saying laugh out loud, Dee Dee. Someone was saying, oh, here it's Madeline for Montague. You think that she would do that? I don't think she'd do that.
I don't think it would be her, because especially since, I mean, she didn't even go through with recording the deed from Bill's land to let the governor, the previous governor, move forward with his plan to divert the water. So it seems to me like she realized, okay, this was a bad idea, so she wanted out. And in that sense, or with that in mind, I don't feel like she would then turn around and be the one who either shot or was involved in the shooting, in Lucas's shooting.
Okay. Anyone know what the item was on the ground in the rain at the end of Lucas's flashback? An umbrella that flew out.
Umbrella, yeah. It was. I wondered at first, and I went back and looked, and it was is his umbrella upside down.
And I remember the umbrella in the first place. And didn't you see the
raining.
woman's shoe? I don't think so. I don't remember seeing his shoe.
Yeah, I didn't either. It was hard to see. I mean, I watched that struggle scene a couple times, and it was just hard. It went so fast. It was just hard to pick anything out.
Yeah. Cindy's saying, did anyone see the picture on Facebook? The official site posted. It was the most close-up pic we've seen so far. Could be Amos, but who knows? Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
I didn't see a shoe. Who would benefit from Lucas's death? Maybe that's the better question. The governor. Montague to get revenge.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I keep saying this, that they knew in the original way they filmed it and everything, they knew. And then, yeah, Chris said he saw it air and he was like, oh, they cut that out and made it that they don't know. They changed it at the last minute to make it a cliffhanger. Because,
Yeah.
and it's really a cliffhanger because it is like driving the storyline and going and going and going. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the final scene of season 10, they also, when Bill rode out to where Nathan and Elizabeth were, they cut out Bill saying he's been shot. He just said, "It's Lucas. I need you both now."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then when they replayed it at the
It
beginning
said,
of 11, then then they added that extra line in.
yeah, that he's been shot twice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us. It's a little
Yeah.
over an
Thank you.
hour. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been good fun.
Thanks for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we're gonna don't go. We'll say goodnight to each other behind the
Okay.
scenes here. All right, everyone. You have a good one. I will see you. Well, let's see. I have a Bridgerton podcast recap. We're in season 2, episodes 3, 4, and 5 on Wednesday. Thursdays are Republic of Doyle. We're still working our way through season 5. And then Sunday will be my fireside chat. And we start all over again. Thank you for being here. Good night. Good night,
All right,
Hardy.
everybody.